Well, time to have a look through the papers this morning with Vicky Beeching and Michael Booker. We'll kick straight off with the man who is 40 today.
Yes, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Chris Moyles.
Yes. I'm sure there's going to be a huge amount of sympathy for Chris Moyles out there today after this story in the paper that broke last night about how he claimed he'd lost £1 million as a used car salesman to offset earnings when he was still at the BBC. And I think he was doing a few other TV shows as well at the time for other channels. But it's very interesting that he was used as part of a test case. So they had 3 members of this tax avoidance vehicle called Working Wheels. He was one of the 3 members to be selected as test cases, and you can see that the revenue are probably picking certain people to get the certain publicity, so to put people off. And I suppose a lot of people will say rightly so. But it's interesting that in the Times, Alexei Mostras has done a lot of the secrets of the tax avoiders stories over the last year or so. And in 2012, they remind us that the Times revealed that Chris Moyles had attempted to use human rights laws to hide his involvement in this. He asked a judge to grant him anonymity because his career might be damaged and his earning capacity reduced, and it would breach his right to respect for his private and family life. So last night he went on Twitter and he said that he'd been naive, he was sure it was legal, it was a big mistake and I take full responsibility. However, 2 years ago he went to the courts to try and get this all hushed up so it wouldn't come out, which I suppose you would do.
Well, you would, wouldn't you? At
the same time,
we've got to be careful with this because there's always an element of confusion over tax avoidance and tax evasion.
Yes.
So, if he was told this scheme was legal,
it is legal, but it's that question of is it morally right?
It's such a grey line, though, isn't it? You know, when there isn't a clear delineation, it's easy for us to point the finger, but actually it is legal. But
particularly as the man in the street with the tax and the revenue, there is this thing that they seem to be going for the little people rather than the big people. And on the train last night on the way home, there's big signs up for HMRC that says we are closing in on undeclared income with with a pair of eyes staring through at you. Just there's this little sinister things from the tax people say, look, don't hide anything. But sometimes we think that the celebrities, not getting away with less tax than or less proportion tax.
Maybe there's a higher standard on them, don't you think? If they're role models for society to some degree, if you have a platform.
I think the temptation to save money wherever you can is, prevalent. Whether you're a famous celebrity
I think
or a small
if I'd been in his
case, when you have that much money, you think.
I think if I was him or a number of other celebrities who are involved in this, if I was him and someone came up to me and said the same thing, I'd think about it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I would.
Because you want to save your money, don't you? Of course you'd think about it.
It is really tricky. It puts people like him in a tricky position.
Well, that's the thing. I think you've always got to apply the yardstick of would you do it yourself? And
would you want everybody
I'm
to
not
copy
saying I would,
well?
but like you, I'd be thinking,
legal.
well, it's going to save me £1 million. Yeah. I can't believe I actually said that out loud. As if it was even...
I'm sure you have to ponder these things on a regular basis.
Yeah, no, sadly, I just...
Going back to your big golden house after this.
He's got his Bentley parked outside.
Oh, we can dream, we can dream. Anyway, neck nominate, Vicky. We hear about, obviously, people doing it with alcohol. Kids doing it as well now.
Yeah,
apparently.
It's a really interesting viral trend. So it started on Christmas Day when a rugby player posted a video of him kind of downing a pint, and it's
is that all it was? Just on Christmas
crazy.
Day?
And he's actually disassociated himself from the craze now. 5 people are known to have died, and the age of the people participating just seems to be going down and down. This is a really sad story. A guy who's he's 10 years old, and he drank a concoction of double cream, peri-peri sauce, mayonnaise, and vodka. And instantly, obviously, threw up because that's just so disgusting, and was rushed off to hospital. But it's affecting people that are so young, and I think there's that element with social media where you see things happening, it becomes cool, and there's so much pressure to
it's
participate.
It's like planking as well.
Yeah.
All the planking craze, and people are being killed doing that.
I know, and I'm a huge fan of social media. I think technology can do a huge amount of social good, campaigning and raising awareness, but this is one of those instances where you see the downside, I think, of people seeing a trend, thinking it's cool, wanting to be part of it, and actually literally risking life and limb.
Part of the problem is that it's got a name. I mean, without the name, it's just a dare, isn't it? But now it's neck nominate, and it's got this cool name that's gone around, and everyone's talking about it now. Oh, are you going to neck nominate? You're going to neck nominate. Whereas if it's just a dare, that's just a dare, isn't it? And people have done that for generations.
Well, maybe, you do have to hope that it is, as you said, just a trend and it will go away. Because do you remember happy slapping?
Yeah.
I mean, that was probably the first real thing that caught on social media, and that obviously caused a huge controversy and died away. So you do have to hope that this will be.
It's quite worrying though, because with 5 deaths and it's still going on. I mean, I would have thought that even just 1 death would be enough to sort of stop this, but it is slightly disconcerting that 5 people have died and it's still kind of rolling on, and the age seems to be going down and down.
If you're a student and you're tempted, stick to a yard of ale. You know, at least you'd be all right with a yard of ale. That ain't going to kill you.
Yard of cider and black.
You might get yard of cider and black.
Sounds like you're speaking from experience.
No, I never did it, actually. I never did it. But, I mean, that's the thing. It's one thing to try and, chuck a pint or a yard of ale or whatever it might be, but not when it's a spirit. It's a guy drinking a bottle of absinthe.
And these kind of concoctions, I mean, nobody would be able to stomach.
But that's the thing, people have always done dares, haven't they?
Yeah.
That's just stupid humans, isn't it?
But it's just when they become ridiculously dangerous, isn't it? I don't want to press the button for this one. Just because it's... That's a lovely picture of Chris Huhne.
There's Chris Huhne.
Zoom in.
Now, he's...
Zoom out.
The Mail seems that they like to have a little duff-up of shamed ex-ministers now and again. They've got Chris Huhne, who loves, as it says in the headline, lecturing us on global warming. He's gone off 12,000 miles for a holiday to a Vietnamese island, which is impossible to pronounce without sounding filthy, I'm afraid.
OK.
So I won't. But him and his girlfriend, Karina Trimmingham, there they are, wandering along this beach. Yes.
I just read it now.
Yes, don't read it out loud. But they're talking about the carbon footprint of people flying back to and from Vietnam is 9 tonnes of CO2. And here's a man, the Mail froths, who lectures us on this sort of thing. How dare he go on holiday?
He might have carbon offset it.
You never know. You never know. Benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, them shorts might be paper or something, I don't know.
Don't go in the sea.
Yeah.
They are quite bold. They're a bold choice of shorts, aren't they, in terms of the pattern and the colour?
Apparently they spent their days lazing on sun lounges and reading espionage novels. Well, I love that's like everyone does.
Sounds like
They've got up fairly close to find that out, haven't they? How do I work that one out? Dear me,
zooming in on the book cover and the jacket, see what it is.
Well, there's the disgraced politicians get a kicking, and I'm afraid I have not got a huge amount of sympathy. What have we got now? Express page 12. Loneliness. Oh, this is a serious one, Vicky, because it affects so many people of every age range going.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it sounds like a bit of a no-brainer that being lonely is bad for you, but they're actually saying here that studies have shown it literally can actually shorten your life. There's some quite frightening statistics that loneliness actually has more of an effect on our health than obesity. And I don't think people would think it was quite that significant. So this piece is great. It's drawing attention to the fact that we're more isolated than we've ever been before, and part of that is actually to do with technology, the way that we can exist in our own little space. You know, you can shop online, you can get things delivered, you can go to the supermarket and, something we wouldn't normally have done before, self-checkout, not having any engagement. That sense that you become more and more machine-oriented, and then living at home, there's millions of people living at home, and they're saying that when you become older, there's actually less of a connection to that sort of sense of town or village or street that you live in, because we're all in our own little worlds, doing life, online a lot. And the cost of
the whole generation getting older.
Yeah, almost like Brave New World kind of becomes pensioners.
Well, I think in terms of Express readers as well, it's more not necessarily people living alone with their tablets and their mobile phones. It's old people living alone. The partners have died. People are living longer in many cases, and I think that's going to be the case for a lot of us going forward. There is going to be a lot of old people around there,
and that
lonely
we will
old
actually
people.
become that if we continue our kind of sort of self-sufficient tablet online living alone life, that we will actually then wind up in that position ourselves.
We've got to adapt, haven't we? Because we're not going to go back to how it was. Things aren't going to reverse, but we need to adapt.
But it's interesting to think how life used to be, living in a village or a parish or whatever, where you knew the people on your street. You'd probably marry somebody from your town, and your relatives were all nearby. Things have changed so much, haven't they, with mobility, the ability to travel and relocate. So this is just really pointing the finger at the negatives of that, because there are so many positives, but we've got to realise we've got to take care of ourselves.
We'll get a care home together. I'll be next to you in your diamond wheelchair.
Make a promise to each other now.
We're about the same age, Michael, aren't we? So yeah, I'll have the diamond wheelchair.
Amazing.
You can have the plastic one. If that affects you, get in touch this one. I'd like to hear your views at Sky Stephen, at Sky Sarah Jane on Twitter. We're going to take a short break. Back in just a moment. this lady here, Michael, who's she likes a can of Coke.
She's effervescent. Yes, this is Jackie Ballan. She spent £6,000 a year on drinking 50 cans of Diet Coke a day. So at the moment, she's doing 350 cans a week. She's trying to cut it to 30 a day at the moment. She has a real problem. She's from Ellesmere Port, Cheshire. She says the addiction is taking over her life, as you can see. That's what she's getting through in a week. Next to her there, she's having constant headaches, hallucinations, and she sees strange things like oranges flying across the room.
I'm not surprised.
I suppose it saves you an ice and a slice, that, if the oranges are being provided by your hallucinations.
But it's any sort of caffeine addiction, that is.
Well, that's what she's saying. All the caffeine means she has trouble sleeping. She's got kids, but she won't let them go out without her and the Diet Coke, because that comes first. It's as important as paying the electricity bill. So it just seems it's got a hold of her.
Addictive though. It strikes a chord with me because I
gave
it up from New Year. I've given it up.
I've given it up too because I looked at the back of the can and I thought, if I can't pronounce these words,
I've no idea what's in it.
But when I lived in America, I was fascinated that lots of people would actually have Diet Coke with their breakfast. And that for me was just a step too far. Maybe it's just because I'm an avid tea drinker.
Weird perception, it's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, Diet Coke with your cereal. I mean, I just can't quite get there.
In moderation, I'm sure it is.
In moderation,
that's not moderation.
I like a couple of cans of fizzy pop in the week.
Imagine being the recycler coming around for that lot.
Amazing.
There you go, save some wallpaper. There you go. Guys, thank you. I know you're back in an hour. We'll look forward to that. Let's get a check on the weather with Isabel.